All right, hello everyone. Today I have another um, taking a look at a manuscript to get an idea of uh, different Ottoman kind of military clothing. Hesitate to use the word uniform, but they had some uniformity anyway. This is a copy, an autograph copy of the Sharafnama, which is a work in Persian talking about the history of the Kurds, a very famous uh, text of Kurdish history, and the Kurds were quite important in the Ottoman military, especially in the 16th century, and particularly when they went to war with the Safavid dynasty of Iran, because the Kurds lived in, well, still today, live in eastern Anatolia, and they were part of the Ottoman military establishment. They were granted, but they were essentially autonomous, more or less, and in exchange for military service. Anyway, now this is an autograph, so that means that this is the original copy written by the author. I'll just show that quickly, and this is in the Bodlein library. Thankfully, it's online. That's what the text looks like. And we have some illustrations. So now I'm going into this kind of blind so we can just take a look at what we've got. We've got a falconer. He's wearing green. One thing is the way they've illustrated is the turbans look a bit different than an Ottoman turban might, or typically the way it would be drawn. This kind of looks like the way the Mughal turbans are depicted, especially there's a famous image of Babur, who has his turban kind of like this. There's probably a name for it. I don't know. I apologize, but we've got kind of the usual colors we've seen in these other videos I've done. A lot of reds, yellows, kind of that mustard or desert, yellow almost. I'm sure it wasn't, camouflage, but anyway, pinks. Looks like these guys are seated, but I've got a musician. I'm not sure, a drummer. So I guess some kind of entertainment happening. We do have a character here. He's got a lance. Looks like. Unfortunately, it seems this manuscript, there's been, the paint has worn off a bit. So here we have, looks like some students perhaps, or someone approaching a master. I mean, if I knew more about the text, I would probably be able to tell you what this is meant to be depicting, but we're just here to look at the clothing. Here we have some polo players. Got the polo clubs. Horses fairly unarmored. Makes sense. It seems like they're meant to be shown playing a sport. So, but they do have their shields. Got this guy with a sword, and their attire looks slightly different than Ottoman clothing, but not that much. But definitely the turbans are drawn to look a bit different. And headgear was a common way in the Ottoman Empire of distinguishing people, whether it's members of the state or different ethnic and religious groups. Here we have an archer. He's got his bow, perhaps some kind of a sword maybe at his back. Not sure. But a lot of nice primary colors. He's got some patterned trousers. Got a character here with purple Another character filling a jug of water. Oh, looks like we have a dog as well. That's nice. See if this will load. Okay, continuing on. Sometimes this site has a bit difficulty loading. I have to refresh it periodically. So get some musicians, some horses with nice reins and that sort of the leather gear. Another falconer. Oh, it'd be cool to have a miniature of a falconer to go with maybe my Ottoman Sultan or my Safavid Shah. I've got someone seated. No, not many military figures here in this text quite yet, but let's see if we get more. There are some illustrations in this, but not as many compared to other illustrated manuscripts I've looked at. But this is also quite a long chronicle as well. So let's see, what do we have here? Got a horse. Oh, looks like a horse wading through the water. We've got a figure here. I think this may be a halo, in fact, but I'm not certain. Could just be a shield, but this guy looks like he has a shield wrapped over, strapped on his back. He's got his lance. This character also has a lance, nice purple kaftan. Let's see if this will open. If not, I may have to cut and continue. Refresh the page. Another sort of domestic scene. Um, People presenting gifts. Looks like we have a woman depicted here, although I'm not sure. These look like pages, younger men. We have some figures seated here. This character has a nice tunic or robe on, some gold inlay. I apologize that the quality of the scan isn't very good. I mean, the paint is clearly aged quite a bit, so I wonder how many hands this passed through. And sometimes these manuscripts were not stored in the best conditions, so have to keep that in mind. Well, here's a nice illustration. So we've got a musketeer here. He's got a different style cap, or maybe it is a turban and he's got some feathers. But he's got his musket, very Ottoman style musket, with that kind of angled design, where you've got this rear breech block, and then it's kind of a straight, and the flared edge, flared muzzle, and then he's got his powder horn and pouch, presumably with cartridges or bullets, I suppose, there. And painter even illustrated it looks like a very little match cord, or they had another type of ignition, kind of like a match stick almost. Looks like he's maybe hunting, because we've got a bird here, so going hunting, perhaps. Okay, now we have an actual battle scene. Got a couple musketeers here. Looks like they've got powder horn and some kind of cartridge bag or belt pouch. Both of them here. Their muskets are depicted as being a bit shorter than um, the one earlier. And then we have an archer. Now, the weapons and armor are not terribly different from um, the way they're depicted in the Ottoman, um, of kind of other Ottoman manuscripts we've looked at on the channel. But these troops do look to be lightly armored. None of them seem to be depicted wearing mail, although they have helmets, some of them with like a kind of headband or something wrapped, carrying bows. Well, one of them carrying a bow. Well, I've got a couple bow and sword and uh, some kind of bag or sabretache. This figure here has the most armor. He's got the vambraces and the helmet, and in addition to his shield. Now they could have been wearing mail under their clothing, but it's hard to determine just based on this. And then we've got some kind of mortar here as well, not two, in fact, a couple mortars. Let's see if we can open the next image. This website, unfortunately, is quite slow, so I've had to cut and resume recording several times. But anyway, we've got more troops. Again, most seem fairly lightly armored, other than helmets and shields. Unlike when we see Ottoman troops, there tends to be a bit of a mix of, some guys will be painted wearing chainmail under their kaftans and that sort of thing. Here we have more military figures. Once again, most seem to be fairly lightly armored. Doesn't look like any of these guys have any kind of mail, but once again, perhaps in real life they just wore it beneath their clothing, although it doesn't seem to look that way. They have their lances, their shields, a couple other. Looks like he has a javelin, maybe. Hard to tell. He's got a shield. Got some falconers. This is paints. Has not survived very well, unfortunately. But I'm sure this is one of the notables. I apologize, I don't know this text very well. I could give more commentary, but this is clearly whoever is in charge, because he's in the middle, looking quite impressive. But we can see, some kind of rank differences, because our our man here has a patterned, ornately patterned clothing, whereas you can see these guys, probably maybe ordinary soldiers, are just dressed in rather plain colors. And we also here have some depictions of the tents, looks like, so nicely colored tents. These may be Safavids or Kizilbash because they have the red, headgear, the red with the red kind of tube thing. I'm sure it has a proper name, but could be Kizilbash, so Safavid, Turkmen, who are Shia Muslims. But got a couple archers here, people presenting gifts, and once again, its images are a little grainy, so I apologize. Okay, here we have another battle scene. And once again, most of the figures appear to be lightly armed and armored. I'm not certain who the Kurds are supposed to be, actually, but even so, we've only got a few characters with heavily, with any kind of additional armor. Few people have braces, but not many seem to be wearing chainmail. This looks like it's just a gray kaftan, not necessarily made out of mail. Sword, we've got a character with a mace here, an archer, a lancer on horseback. So, quite interesting. And the fact that the Kurdish characters in this manuscript are painted with fairly light armor leads me to believe that they were tended to be used as kind of scouts. I've at least one source I've read kind of depicts them doing that or being told to go, kind of go ahead of the main force. So they could have been, more kind of light kind of scouting sort of troops are used in that capacity sometimes. Here we have these may be Europeans, perhaps, I'm not sure, in what they're trying to depict, but we can, see the different colors that they wore. I say they're European because this looks like a artist, the artist rendition of like a 16th century European type coat or overshirt, whatever it's called. But I think for this, we can see a lot of purples, pinks, light blue. So I would think this would be, the artist making a reasonable depiction of different, colors that would have been around. And yeah, I believe these are Europeans because this looks like kind of the rough color that was common in the 16th century. Okay, here we have another battle scene. Hopefully the image will load fully, but this is with Ottomans because we've got some Janissaries here firing their muskets. Got presumably a commander, followed by some voltages, some halberdiers. Here they are presenting captives. And then we've got some mounted figures charging in with bows. But once again, the interesting thing is the mounted characters in this manuscript don't seem terribly armored. So maybe they function in some kind of lighter cavalry role, but hard to say, because not even all the Ottoman feudal cavalry were necessarily fully kind of armored and chainmail and that sort of thing. Not sure this will completely load. We do have some banners, but they're just solid color, not really very many details. And on the opposite page, let's see if it'll load. We have some, I'm pretty sure these are Safavids getting routed by the Ottomans. Got some handgunner or musketeers. Looks like some kind of barrier, perhaps. Not sure what these are supposed to be. There's a chain, so maybe it's trying to depict like a armored, a defended camp, maybe. Anyway, but got a guy with a mace. But again, the Kizilbash, the Safavids, are not heavily armored either. At least the way the artist has it depicted. And got light troops for the most part, it seems. I think that's all I'll cover in this video. We're already reaching over 20 minutes, and I'll be completely honest with you all that this website loads very, very slowly. So it's kind of difficult to screen record this, but I hope you found it interesting. In terms of tentative conclusions, it does seem that when the manuscript depicts Kurdish troops, they are lightly armed, armored, I should say, maybe not so much lightly armed, but lightly armored. We don't really see any of the jebbe, the male jacket that a lot of the Ottoman cavalrymen typically are painted as wearing, and certainly did wear. And most of the armor seem to just be helmets, and occasionally you have a character like this one with some vambraces, and not very many armored horses either. So that's somewhat interesting. Well, I hope you liked this. And a viewer of the channel asked me to take a look at this, so I hope this was nice to see. And I may revisit this text in future. We'll see. But that's the Sharafnama. I will, of course, put the link to this so you can view it on your own for reference. But once again, if nothing else, you can get an idea for the colors for painting an Ottoman or Safavid Persian army for like the 15th, 16th century, and hopefully you learned something. So thank you for watching, and I will speak to you in the next video.